Greetings, my name is Blaze, and today I've got another wonderful video request for you, and that is medical use of legal marijuana. With a name like Blaze, you all must think I'm an expert, but no, that's not the case. Typically, it's interesting that most of the people that have said, with a name like Blaze, you must be a stoner, and I'm like, you're a stoner, aren't you? That's usually the association. People don't think about the whole geek factor involved, like Dungeons and Dragons and video games. But anyway, without further ado, one of the video requests I had was from a user named Truth, and they said medical use of legal marijuana. I don't know much about the medical use of legal marijuana, so I did some research. So as always, I will share some reference links below. There's plenty more out there. This is just a handful just to start the conversation off. So essentially, the medical uses behind marijuana are for essentially chronic pain. It's sort of like a pain reliever, anti-inflammatory, that I guess can be used a little bit more common than your typical NSAIDs that you would use, such as ibuprofen or acetaminophen or something like that, or if you prefer Tylenol and Motrin are some of the name brands of those two types of painkillers or anti-inflammatory type of medications. So mostly when it comes to different types of medication, they're derived from some sort of herbal remedy. The magical practitioners of the ancient days, the knowledgeable, learned ones, used to, of course, practice different stuff with nature, try out different things, and they had herbal remedies, your herbalists, your healers, your midwives, things like that. They had the ability to kind of work with the natural remedies out in nature, and then, of course, these have been turned and changed and approved through FDA to become modern medicine, but they're the origin. That's why if you look at health and medicine, you'll typically see the symbol, which is essentially a wizard's staff with a snake or serpent, which is a symbol of knowledge and wisdom, and you'll often see the mortar and pestle, which is used for grinding up of herbs. So it's kind of important, at least for modern medicine, or to at least acknowledge that part of being a healer was incorporating different elements from the earth, because again, natural remedies, finding homeostasis within yourself. So when it comes to marijuana itself, let's talk about these two web pages. The first one here, drugabuse.gov. Ah, yes, let's go to a government website. Good stuff. This is a nice thing to have in my search history. So, talking about cannabinoids, and I might be mispronouncing that, maybe, but essentially there are two different elements inside of marijuana that are considered to have some medical usages, such as THC and CBD. Looks like the big two, the THC does, I guess, have the ability to get you high, and it can increase your appetite, reduce nausea, and may decrease pain, inflammation, swelling and redness, and muscle control problems. Unlike THC, CBD is a cannabinoid that doesn't make people high. These drugs, high with quotes around it, these drugs aren't popular for recreational use because they aren't intoxicating and may be useful in reducing pain and inflammation, controlling epileptic seizures, and possibly even treating medical illness and addictions. So the FDA approved a CBD-based liquid medication called, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of this, Epidiolex, for the treatment of two forms of severe childhood epilepsy, Dravet syndrome and Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. Again, probably butchering the pronunciation on these. Of course, I'll reference these links below as well. Then another website, health.harvard.edu, talks about marijuana being currently legal in at least 29 different states. It is still legal from the federal government's perspective, which I always thought was kind of interesting, that it's legal at a state level, but illegal at a federal level. Good stuff there. And then, of course, it also mentions here about the medical uses, including pain control. So that basically seems to be the biggest thing here. Actually, even mentions here far less addictive and can take the place of NSAIDs, such as Advil or Aleve, if people can't take them due to problems with their kidneys or ulcers or GERD. So I think that's the other thing to keep in mind here as far as this particular usage. it kind of makes sense. To me, at least, I could see legalizing the medical use of marijuana. What folks do recreationally is kind of their business. And honestly, if it comes from the earth, I don't see what the big deal is. I really don't. You know, if people want to use stuff recreational and they're not harming people and it's not poison or toxic, that's their business. In my opinion, that's my thoughts. But as far as the medical side, it looks like there's plenty of legitimate medical usages for it. I of course know people, or have known. I guess I don't know if I know anyone right now. So I've known people that like some recreational fun. And these individuals, although I was never a huge, you could usually tell if they had just been recreational at the moment. And not only did you could smell it on them, but the way that they were acting, you could tell they were high. However, some individuals who might not necessarily have smoked it as often, that still smoked it, they seem to be more mellowed and calm people. So maybe it worked for some people. I was told a story once. There was an individual who used to drive a garbage truck. I don't know how accurate this is, because this is somebody... I knew a friend who knew a friend. So I knew somebody who claimed to have known somebody who drove a garbage truck. And they smoked marijuana every morning before work. Calmed them down. They had bad anxiety, helped them relax. They did great. Someone ended up causing a wreck while they're in the garbage truck. Supposedly it wasn't the driver's fault, but because he was in a wreck, had to be drug screened, and he tested positive for marijuana, lost his job. However, this individual supposedly functioned better when they smoked marijuana because it helped keep them calm. I don't know. I don't know if that's justification for its use or not, but again, I don't see the big problem of it. If it comes from Mother Nature, what's the big deal? It's not like it's some sort of synthetic deal, and if folks are using it, whatever. If you're going to do at least the medical route, well, guess what? There's a lot of medications that can be abused. They are synthetic and used in labs. So a lot of this is controlled. So at the very least, if there are genuine medical uses that seem to be appropriate, why not? Because here's the thing. If you're using acetaminophen or ibuprofen, like I have ibuprofen sitting right here on my desk, because every so often, if I get really bad migraines, I have to take that in order to help relieve the pressure. However, that's not something you can take regularly. There is a recommended dose, and you can't go over the dosage. You can get sick. It can tear up your stomach really bad. And prolonged use is also not recommended. So if it was something I needed to take every day, which I don't, every so often, especially during the warm weather out there when my sinuses are all flared up and I'm getting bad headaches from the weather, then yeah, might have to take it every so often. But it's not usable on a daily basis. So if I had migraines every single day, I'd have to go see my doctor and find out something I could use every day. I am curious, would some sort of CBD type based thing, would that help me? I don't know. But it's interesting to think that there might be something that could be less aggressive or addictive or harmful to yourself that might be an alternative. And it's interesting that the negative stigmas around stuff like this instantly causes people to throw it out the window. Whatever. It's also interesting to me because alcohol is legal, but stuff like marijuana is not legal, which doesn't make much sense because literally alcohol, if you drink too much alcohol, you can have alcohol poisoning. You are intoxicated. People who are drunk, I believe that there's been more incidences of death from drunk drivers than people who are high. People have made jokes like the stoners, worst that's going to happen is they're going to eat all the munchies. I mean, they'll go eat all the snacks out of the store, but aside from that, they're usually too mellow and lying around the house being high versus people who are drunk and partying and possibly causing accidents. I don't know. I don't have any perfect answer solution, but truth, there you go. There's my thoughts on the medical use of legal marijuana. I feel like that there is some sound evidence out there, and I'm not just basing it upon these two websites. I've heard this argument and debate for years. I personally like this thought that if people would not be high on it, that there's something that can be harvested from the marijuana plant. Maybe that should be more used, because the whole high thing, I don't know much about it. It's not something I choose to partake in myself. So for those that do, I don't know how severe it is. I've only seen people who were supposedly high. So I don't know if there's a risk factor involved. However, if the THC has some sort of medical value as well, as they're suggesting, at least on these two sites and some other videos and studies that are out there, perhaps it should be some sort of a controlled substance. For example, like how long does the high from THC last for? Maybe you can't drive or operate heavy machinery while high. Something along those lines. Treat it like alcohol. While you're intoxicated, you have to have it out of your system before you're driving. Maybe the same thing with the THC portion of it. Is there any other types of medications that they can derive from it that doesn't have the high but still has the positive benefits and effects? I don't think we should shut things out just because of the known recreational use of and disagreement of certain items. So that's my personal thoughts. What do you think? Post your comments below. Do you think that marijuana should be used legally, medically? Should it be legal? Should it be illegal? Should it be used recreational? Let's throw that one out there too. Post your thoughts and comments below. And remember to thumb up, a like, and subscribe. Thanks for watching.